In a world where comics, movies, games, rumors, and Kardashians come at you 24/7, three champions will rise to defend you from wasting precious time, money, and emojis. BK, Nate, and Derreck will show you how to do it the player way.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, you're back once again, and we thank you because that's how we do it the player way. Once again, my name is BK, and I'm here with my co-captains, Derreck.
That's me from Dallas, Texas. Good afternoon, good evening, good night.
And Nathan.
Hi, how are you?
Doing all right. I decided to get a little formal this week. I usually call him Nate, but I was like, and Nathan. I feel so official, guys. Like the show feels so official. The feedback we're getting. How are y'all feeling about actually being back another week for this podcast?
I'm excited. I've been excited. I don't want my excitement to overshadow Nathan's excitement because I feel like he has a plethora of it.
Yeah, I'm just oozing excitement.
We can hear the passion in your voice.
I just keep it a little self-contained. Yeah.
I need to wipe my ears. It's coming out. It's coming out right now. It's too much.
Well,
rein it in.
Well, as you've heard, we're back for another week. But if this is your first week, we welcome you to the Player Way podcast. What our podcast is a glorified conference call of three guys who have been friends for years. We take annual man trips together, but because we're not in the same city, we have to kind of get on the phone to kind of share thoughts about what we love. And because of our gregariousness and our passion about what we love, the things that we love, whether it be something in the politics, whether it be something about Netflix or television, or something about MMA or the WWE or even film, we kind of made ourselves a bit of tastemakers in our respective cities. So people tend to call us and ask us what we think. And over time, we decided to get together and said, why don't we just consolidate what we think. This weekly call that we have, let's press record and let's put it out live for everybody to see. So if you enjoy what we are putting down and you want to pick it up more often and want to know when it's coming out, you can visit us at playlifeyourway.com, or you can just search for the Player Way podcast on iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, and SoundCloud, many places that host podcasts. So with no further ado, let's get it going. Guys, what have you been up to this week? Nate?
Well, we spoke about this a while ago, BK, and I finally did it. You had mentioned or told me to watch Split, and last week I finally did it.
Yes. I'm so excited.
What a great film.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do not rehearse this. I had no idea he was going to say this, so you got to give me a second to just have my little joygasm. Talk to me about your thoughts on Split, bro. First of all, actually, before we get started, most of the time you guys are going to be listening to us, it is a spoiler cast. We're giving our feedback of what we've seen already. So be careful. If you don't want to be spoiled on Split, go ahead and press pause, go watch the movie, and then come back. Otherwise, we don't want any angry troll emails. So go ahead, Nate. Tell us your thoughts.
It was good, but you gotta put that in the perspective of this is M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't enjoyed one of his movies in close near like 10 years now. This was good. James McAvoy did a good job. The ending, with Bruce Willis in there, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not one of those guys that thought Unbreakable was that good. So I'm not exactly excited that there's going to be an Unbreakable sequel. It's cool to see James McAvoy again playing, 25 different roles. But yeah, it was good in the sense that, it did keep me excited throughout the movie. I wouldn't say M. Night Shyamalan's back and let's all rejoice as people, but hey, it's a good start or a good second start.
As a movie by itself, how do you feel Split did?
I mean, outside of it was pretty good. I don't know.
Is it sequel worthy? I'll ask you that.
Is it sequel? No, I don't care to see another one. I hope that doesn't anger people.
If I may ask, when you say not sequel worthy, just because the movie itself wouldn't require one, or do you mean more so that storyline was enough for this one movie? Any quote unquote sequel may be just like a different variation of the story. How do you mean? Do you mean like the film's not good enough by itself to have a sequel, or what?
No, I think the film's good enough to just stand on its own. You know, I don't
Okay.
I don't think we need an Unbreakable sequel. How long has it been? Like 15 years later. You know, there's not a good track
17.
record of... Well, exactly. You know, like, all those movies that have come out with sequels, you know, at least 10 years later, like Zoolander, Anchorman, Dumb and Dumber, none of them have been that good.
I agree with you 100%, especially on the Anchorman thing. You know,
and Bruce Willis probably, you know... Bruce Willis's career, he probably does need this sequel of Unbreakable because he's starting to go into Nick Cage territory, just coming out with
it has a script. It requires me to yell or whisper. I'll take it.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of Bruce Willis movies on Netflix pop up that, you know, obviously are kind of direct to video, so he probably needs it. But I don't think the world needs an Unbreakable sequel.
That's interesting. I'm one of those people who was excited when I saw that ending because I did love Unbreakable, but I definitely hear what you mean. I'm one of those people who felt like we should have had an Unbreakable sequel a long time ago. I definitely hear you 100%, and I wouldn't blame anyone for kind of already giving up on M. Night Shyamalan. So, but I'm really glad you saw the film because I think the film was really good. I mean, what do you see it in terms of critical acclaim toward award season of beginning of 2018?
I think it's going to get no. I don't think. If anybody deserves an award, it's McAvoy, but I doubt he would be nominated for anything. Not saying nothing against his performance, but just this isn't the type of movie that gets noticed during award season.
Interesting. Well, that's interesting feedback. Really happy that you had a chance to look at that. Speaking of,
I rate this third of his movies.
Okay, that's pretty good. So
Sixth
Sense first, and then Signs. Is that what you said?
Yeah, and then this.
So what do you think if they brought like Mel Gibson back for like a sequel that's all inside of the M. Night Shyamalan universe?
No, unnecessary.
So we can add Nate's passion for M. Night Shyamalan as one of those things that does not exist.
I'm sorry, Nate. I can't believe you're not raving about Lady in the Water. I'm thoroughly appalled that you. Man. First of all, all right. I will say this just before we move on. Lady in the Water is a wonderful children's story movie, and if it had have been marketed and animated as such, would have been much better. I will at least say that because I'll just say personally, my kids liked that movie as a story, which made me look at it a totally different perspective. So I will say that, but ultimately, Nate, I am right with you with the top three movies of Sixth Sense, Signs. Personally, I put Signs ahead of Sixth Sense just because I have more of an affinity toward aliens versus the dead people. But that's a great. I'm glad that you brought up Split. I haven't thought about it in a while. It was a good movie. It's a very good movie, and people need to see that one. That's a good one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of a good one, last night. UFC 211. Normally I would go to Derreck and ask him how his week was, but I would be remiss in letting this podcast go any further without talking about how awesome UFC 211 was in Dallas, Texas. I mean, it was right in your backyard, Derreck, man. Like, I mean, what was it like?
Literally right down the street.
What was the activity like? Like, did you notice more people in the city, or was there any buzz about UFC being in Dallas for such a big event?
Yes, actually there was. There was a few people in my other life. The job that keeps the lights on allows me to do this with you guys as well financially. But in actuality, even local radio show. I say local. They're huge, but they even brought Dana White on to they snagged him for about 15 minutes, which, as you know, BK, that's nearly impossible to get the man who bought UFC for $2 million and sold it for $4 billion to get 15 minutes of his time. So you know how difficult that was. But he even got to talk about how excited he was to actually get some good old Tex-Mex here in Dallas as well. But all food and everything aside, yes, there were billboard signs. Even the Omni gave him a shout out by adjusting the lights out here, so the downtown skyline was actually altered just specifically for this fight night.
Man, and fight night, I'm telling you, and I'm really glad that Dallas, kind of made itself a home for the UFC 211, because that hospitality, that Southern hospitality that Texas is known for, shown itself in goodwill with good karma for this, both the undercard and the main card. If you're fans of the UFC and you're listening and you've been living under a rock, we got you covered. Starting with the undercard on FX this time, not on Fox Sports 1. We led in with James Vick in defeating Marco Polo Reyes in the first round, TKO. Chase Sherman defeated Rashad Coulter via second round, which was an amazing, to me, was probably the best fight of the night. Jason Knight defeated Chaz Kelly via third round TKO. Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier declared a no contest. Very, it looked like Eddie Alvarez was on his way out, and then he made his way back and had an accidental foul on the record. But both of those guys leaving with a really nice exclamation point, ending the undercard on several matches that should have been on the main card, because when we started up the UFC, I actually paid the money to watch this thing, and I was greeted with David Branch defeating Krzysztof Jotko, which was not a very exciting fight at all. I mean, even the people commentating were kind of apologizing for it being a bit of a snooze fest. But then the electricity came back in with Frankie Edgar, the legendary, people thinking he was on his way out. He effectively second round TKO to the young Yair Rodriguez. He's building his way up, and so really good to see him do so well. Another guy who's a legend, Damian Maia, defeated Jorge Masvidal via split decision. And then we had Joanna Champion defeating Jessica Andrade. None of us expected her to lose, and she showed herself to be probably on her way to being the best striker in UFC history, male or female. And she's on her way also to breaking the streak that Ronda Rousey had. So everyone's really excited about that, because Joanna is the real thing, unlike who shall not be named again on this podcast for a while. And then we have Stipe Miocic defeating Junior Dos Santos, avenging his previous loss. And that I'm excited about that one the most, because we actually, on the Play Your Way Network, we predicted that this would exactly how it ends. So great night, great fights, and a really good look for the UFC, who has had some issues with stars as of late. But to kind of fix their image, they had this summer press conference for all the events that are coming up to capitalize. There's an article if you want to know more about that. We don't have time to get into it on the podcast today, but there is a live video of it, the live stream recorded via YouTube, and it is on the Play Your Way Network. You can find that at playlifeyourway.com. So that's kind of the rundown of what was going on in Dallas. What else went on this week over in Dallas for you, Derek?
Well, lately, a few weeks back, I had a itching to return to one of my favorite TV shows. Definitely in my top 10, arguably one of the top 5 TV shows. It came out well before its time, almost. I'll make up a statistic. I'll say 74.3% of TV shows after this have used this formula to have comedic success. And I've been rewatching Arrested Development, our favorite. Yes, and this show came out 14 years ago. There weren't shows like this out. It didn't have a large following. It has a huge cult following, and it was non-renewed after 3 seasons. Shockingly, because if you ever, as I've gone back and watched this show multiple times, I just look at it in awe. How I can't believe this hasn't been on for 14 straight years. You know what I mean? But we were all pleased. It was about 4 years ago, BK, when they did a fourth season.
Absolutely.
And
on Netflix.
I've been I've been hearing buzz about an alleged fifth season, and you're the one that actually brought it to me hardcore. Jason Bateman confirmed it. So he's gassing up the stair car.
Yeah, I was at work on my way home for the night, and because we have this podcast, there's certain news streams that I kind of keep as on my live notifications on my phone. And so the Hollywood Reporter broke the news that Jason Bateman spilled the beans about, really just via a tweet, about the Blues gassing up their stair car and Arrested Development having a new season teased. If you want some more details about that and keeping up the updates, again, go to playlifeyourway.com and click on the link for the article. But Derreck, tell me a little bit more about your love for the show, man.
Man, this show is it's an overused term, but it is comedic genius. I even still will go back and watch and catch a joke I didn't catch the first 3 times I've seen some episode, because it's just so, not only is it well written, there's so many levels of the humor on it, and it's clearly all orchestrated. It was constructed in a way to where a joke in episode 4 of season 3 ties to 4 other jokes in the previous 2 seasons. How they bring it all together is, well cast, of course. I mean, everybody played their part perfectly, but it was current. It was, like I said, I will go ahead and say Modern Family would not have existed without Arrested Development. And Modern Family,
100%.
Modern Family has won so. Everything that Modern Family wins, I feel like they should have an asterisk of thank you to Arrested Development for making this possible, because that show is in essence Arrested Development in a blended family way.
Not only is it an homage to Arrested Development, it fixes what made Arrested Development not work well for a traditional TV audience. It brought because the Bluth family on Arrested Development are not a likable family. Like the things that they do, they're very flawed. Even Michael, even he's very flawed as a character. So it's hard to root for them. These are people that you're just watching their lives unravel all the time, and they are the makers of their own doing. So Netflix is like the show is ahead of its time. Netflix is the proper place for people to watch this. Not only is that a show that kind of rips off some of the things or is a riff on some of the things they did, but there's another show called Schitt's Creek on Netflix that is a lot like what the Bluth family is about. If you've not seen Schitt's Creek, that's SCHITT.
SCHITT.
Yeah. You need to see. That's another show that is very similar to Arrested Development. But again, those other shows that channel what Arrested Development did, they kind of dial it down a little bit so that the most pedestrian audience can understand what's going on. But like you said, like Arrested Development is on 10, it's on 11, dude, and there's so much going on that you have to go back and rewatch it to get everything that's going on.
Just even the fact of I'm almost done with season 3 again, and just the fact earlier I believe it was like a couple weeks before they decided they had this one out, they found out shortly at the beginning of season 3 that they were being non-renewed. So they worked that beautifully in to the season 3. If you recall how they started having like the Save Our Blues fundraisers, those type of things, and how they were like, this particular episode seems to be going toward comedic genius. Tell your friends about this show, please. And they actually worked that in to the show. Just it's masterfully done. It holds up. That's another thing that I like about older TV shows or older movies. I always I've heard the phrase, can it hold up? Can you watch it right now and be at least 90% as entertained? And this show, if I had never seen an episode before and I started watching it, I would be all in. I would actually even wait a week to see it if that's how it was produced. Like, this is still a good show. If there's anyone out there presently listening that has not ever watched Arrested Development, you're doing yourself a disservice by not adding this into your mental humor encyclopedia banks. Like, this needs to go. You need to watch this show. It's great. I'm excited that they're gassing it up again. We were all thrilled, like I said, 4 years ago, and they did it right. then tying up a few things that we definitely needed tied in. I'm not going to spoil too much, but it's just good to go back and rewatch these type of things. So that's what I've been kind of consumed with, and I find myself excited to watch another episode going forward on that. So yeah, definitely excited about that. And we got a good little article on our Play Your Way Network website on that too.
Absolutely.
Also, just a little trivia tidbit: the Russo brothers directed the pilot.
This guy over here with the luckily I will know that if I'm ever about to be beheaded, you have to call one person for some random knowledge. Who piloted the first episode of Arrested Development? Nate, help me out. Stinking Fox, hook me up.
Russo brothers, who are now
that's awesome, man.
Who are at helm of arguably what's going to be the biggest movie ever.
Dude. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I didn't even realize that, actually. Thanks for the tidbit there.
I think that's what I love about like Netflix, is that you can find these things like Derek, you were recommending that they go back and watch it. And Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we used to travel for work, didn't we used to talk about Arrested Development a good bit as well?
Yeah, because I think they were planning on bringing it back at the time.
That's right. I remember talking that with
Derek mentioned, because you said it was 4 years ago since the
I want to say about 4 years ago, 2013.
Yeah,
Does that sound about right?
And so they must have been getting ready, or they might have just brought it back.
Yes,
we were working together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because I remember we would tell like part of our lexicon would be like inside jokes, and same thing with Derek and I.
Bell of the ball. That's
right, Egg. What's your name again? Egg. Your friend Egg. Her name is Ann.
I would like to thank. Yes, it was Ann. I would like to thank Arrested Development for enriching the weekend of your wedding with so much more humor. Yes.
You have to know our family makeup to get what he just said. Shout out to Egg, by the way. So
shout out to Egg. She is the belle of the ball.
Absolutely.
Isn't that right, Ian?
That's right. So all right. So I mean, but anyway, the point of all of that was to say I love that Netflix and different types of networks like Hulu and Crackle are around, because it allows you to kind of craft and curate your content on a daily basis to what you want to watch. You know, back in the day, you spent a lot of time being a couch potato because you had to watch. It took forever, to just watch a show, because there's tons of advertisements, especially if you watched anything on MTV. And then on top of that, I mean, just to get through the crap, you kind of channel surfed. But channel surfing is something that, like, I don't even have a tolerance for anymore. Like, I can't just turn on the TV.
No one even knows what that is.
I can't even turn on the TV, and I discontinued my traditional cable subscription, and then I traded that out for Sling TV is what I use now. But even the way that's made up, there's tons of on-demand content and a lot more choicing as far as what kind of channels you want to watch. You can actually... The front page you can make up of only the channels you enjoy watching, and then that way you don't have to surf through stuff.
BK, if I may interject, just a reminder, and this will also tie in to a few things that we've already talked about. Is back in the day, and this was true when I was a kid, and of course the previous generation is a given. If you weren't in front of your TV at 8 o'clock on a Sunday, you missed the show, and you never saw it again, and that was just that until you were an adult and found out that this is on tape, this is on DVD. Like, you just never saw it. You just never saw it again.
And dude, and remember how uncool. Remember how uncool you would be. Like, for example, like Monday Night Raw, like WWE Monday Night Raw. Imagine like when you were on Monday and you were in the locker room. Remember, we'd be in the locker room and like. Yes. You were the one kid that didn't know what happened the night before. I mean,
and you were
back
an
then
outcast.
Back then it was known as WWF.
Yeah,
which is
man.
still
Yes.
how I think about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, but
yeah.
you're right. Like, I've never heard it said that way before.
Yeah.
Like,
we've been we're so used to right now, I can go turn on my TV and watch exactly what I've ever wanted to watch at any moment. Now, I will say at least this. There is one venue out there that still forces that, and it's sporting events. If you want to watch them live, like UFC, if you want to watch that, you gotta go watch it. If you want to watch a football game, yes, you can still record it and everything. So there's at least still that aspect of it. But when it comes to TV, something like that, you had to wait. SOL.
You had to wait until it went into syndication in order to get it. And so if it was a show,
hope for the best,
bro. So if it was a show that wasn't super popular, you never saw it again. So if you were in the minority of people, I mean, and like now here's the difference. And I'm actually kind of glad you brought that up, because it reminds me of something I saw this week. I'm going to pull it up online so I can kind of quote it when I get around to it. But the only place that you could really get to, or the leading place to get content, because remember when, Dead Like Me and HBO shows started coming out, and Sopranos, before there was on-demand streaming, right? They were like the first network to start putting stuff out, Sex and the City, on VHS. Remember, they put it out on VHS, and you could actually, you could actually go to Blockbuster and rent it out and like watch it all if you really wanted to. That's actually how I got into Netflix, because Derreck is the one that got me into The Sopranos. So I got a Netflix. I remember Derreck telling me, you just need to get Netflix. And if you get Netflix, this is before they had the streaming stuff. He was like, then you can get all of the different DVDs. In fact, the reson why I switched to streaming only is because I still can't find one of the DVDs to send back of The Sopranos. So, so like the only way that you could get content is like to go to a place like Blockbuster Video, which we all know is extinct, right?
Dude, it's a vintage T-shirt, so you know it's extinct.
You would be wrong.
You know what?
You would be wrong,
actually.
Yeah,
I've learned there's like 5 locations still open.
Yes, and that's the next story I was going to talk about. Apparently, Alaska remains the last stronghold for Blockbuster Video, according to the Washington Post and Alaska News,
for keeping my childhood a little bit alive.
So check this out. There's actually a YouTube video, and maybe I'll post a article or something about it this week, because as Derreck, you remember, where did I work the summer before I went to college?
You worked at the Blockbuster that was right by 635 and Skillman and Abrams the Split. You worked there, and that's where everybody went on Friday night.
Yeah, it was a social
And when I
gathering.
say everybody, you had 2 registers and you had 25 people in each line looking at new releases, because y'all had the red tags on them. You had a 2-day rental, and don't you ever be late, because you'd have to take out a second mortgage for the late fees, man.
I'm telling you, dude.
Or you just better hope. Better hope you had somebody that worked there be like, no, I turned it in, I swear. No, it's $72 for that.
I'm so glad that Nate brought that up, because it reminded me I'd seen that, and that was exactly where I was going next with the Blockbuster Videos in Alaska. Apparently he has I want to say he has 15 of them left, and they're all in Alaska. And the reason why it goes to it's a throwback to last week's episode. So basically, because the winters are so harsh there, and because
that's how they survive it,
and because it's so remote in terms of getting Wi-Fi, reliable Wi-Fi and stuff, they can't really get Netflix in certain parts of that countryside. So Blockbuster Video is this thriving social gathering place. It's amazing. I get goosebumps. I watched this video. I think I'm going to write an article when I get off recording. I think I'm going to post this. I gotta make
basically what you're trying to say is Alaska's still stuck 20 years ago.
Dude, it's like watching. Dude, they got
not even in a negative sense though. It's not in a negative sense. That. I welcome that time machine a little bit, because that was good times. I mean, we all sat around, watched that one channel 28 to where it went in a loop of every channel, and if you missed that, you had to wait another 7 minutes, and then you end up switching to another show, get into that show, and then forget that you were trying to watch some other show, and by the time you switch back, you didn't get to see what was TV Guide was saying it, or even further back before, when you would wait for the weekly TV Guide to hopefully set your VCR, only to find out that TBS changed the recording and you accidentally recorded Sleepless in Seattle when you thought you were recording, Jurassic Park. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe that was just my plight.
No, I got you.
For me.
Look, somewhere out there in Alaska, some guy's listening to this and is like, "What the hell's Netflix?"
Please.
No, but
stay hard, Jimmy. Stay hard, Jimmy.
But the thing I thought was cool about it the most, though, is that it's still this social gathering place, and you forget that that's what Blockbuster used to be. Like, if you go back and watch the original, or in places like Blockbuster, if you go back and watch the original Scream movie, horror film, there's scenes that take place in the movie store because one of the characters works there, and they kind of hang out at the video store. So it's like something. Yes. And here's what's also crazy. This is something different. It's not the same thing as Blockbuster Video, but where is it? Is it Utah where like the Mormons, like the Church of Latter-day Saints?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like there's apparently a ton of like Hollywood video type places that still exist there too, because they have to curate the type of content that their church and that people who go to like BYU and things like that can watch. So they don't allow Netflix and stuff. It's not like their religion. They're not cool with Netflix and stuff because you can't really curate the content. It's all there. Like whatever Netflix wants to push to you, it's going to come up and then you'll see it and it'll burn your holy eyes, So like they still have video stores. So it's kind of crazy that there are these schisms, these pockets of places that still are kind of like this time machine. Like, what do y'all think about that?
I like it, man. It takes me back because, as technology advances more and more and more, because I feel like, honestly, our generation has at least one of the largest technological leaps, because I know for a fact you and I, BK, remember doing our research and writing book reports solely off encyclopedias, period, the end, not even getting on a computer. Man. And nowadays,
let alone writing a paper.
Handwriting, getting cramps, erasing, writing it all in pencil and then going to write it back in pen because that's just
writing
how it was.
Fucking cursive.
Yes,
cursive. Yes, not only the English language is cumbersome, we also have another way to write it. So learn that too. But I like it. It's nice because I look back and I look back 20 years. I'm like, where were we 20 years ago? And I'm like, man, I look forward 20 years, and I'm like, good Lord, man, you're right. We used to hang out at Blockbuster. We used to go there. We used to have those social gathering spots that was our social media. Yeah. That was literally our social media. Blockbuster Video, Hollywood Video if you weren't rich and fancy, or I Love Video on Audelia if you know what I'm talking about, BK. You know what you know about I Love Video?
Man,
but honestly, it's nice. It's nostalgic. It has, like I said, it reminds you of those days where
of a simpler time.
And forgive my forgive my polyester pant wearing were their original pocket stuffed phrase, but it was a simpler time, man. It was. It was because right now we're overloaded. We can get to everything, and I know that might be slightly ironic on a multimedia podcast that we're doing presently, but it's still relevant. It's still something that I appreciate. It's nice to know that there are places out there that aren't fully, hey, here's everything electronic, jump forward with us, and I'm willing to bet that those communities in Alaska, I bet they have a much tighter bond, not just because it's a small town, you know what I mean? Because they're gathering, they're talking about this stuff, and it's not just watching and go on about their lives. So that's actually kind of, it's pleasant, you know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's the reason why podcasting has become such a big thing as of late, because as technology advances you to where you can do everything at your house. Like, you don't have to go outside if you don't want to the point where people are now getting vitamin D deficiencies from a lack of sunlight, because you can be inside and you can have you can have a whole workout place in your house that has an elliptical that you never have to leave.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. I appreciate
people are getting vitamin D is rickets coming back?
No, seriously, that's like a thing now.
Again?
No, seriously, no, that's a thing that's happening. It is. It's happening.
Think about it. Think about it. Right now, if you want your groceries, you can have them delivered.
Yes.
If you need to buy something from Walmart, you can have it delivered.
Testify.
If you want to watch anything you've ever wanted to see, you can watch it right now. You don't have. If you don't want to go to work,
exactly.
you can just work from home. I said.
I'm telling you, bro.
This just in, scurvy has come
agoraphobia lives. Yes.
Scurvy's the new Ebola, man.
Yes,
man.
Yes.
But I think that's the reason why.
Scurvy? No. Stop. Shut it down. Because scurvy? Why did we get scurvy?
I thought, look. Those people out in, the people out in the boats, like during the Columbus era when they were traveling for months and months, they would get scurvy and fucking rickets.
I know they did, but why are we getting scurvy?
Don't tell me kids these days are getting vitamin deficiency, so I'm just picturing a bunch of kids with
vitamin C.
Scurvy
is lack of vitamin C.
I was trying not to say that to him, but yeah, that is exactly.
I'm going to do it. Scurvy is lack of vitamin C, Nathan. Jesus,
why are you trying to ruin this fucking? I just pictured a bunch of kids with bolas and
you had to remind me.
Scurvy.
Because in our first podcast, you had to shut me down and remind me that Beauty and the Beast came out a week before Power Rangers, and you shut me down. So I got you back on the screen.
Wait. Oh yeah. That leads into a good point. Moment of silence for Power Rangers, because it doesn't seem like it's doing too well.
So, all right, before we go any further, before we go any further,
you're right. Let's jump straight into Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, if you're listening, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't quite understand what we're talking about, because last week we did not talk about Power Rangers. Before we started doing the podcast, I told you guys we talk about this. We talk every week like this. So when we thought of the idea to do the podcast, we started recording episodes. So like the first episode, and maybe one day we'll like replay it. You may even be able to find it online because we tested audiences with it. But we talked about Power Rangers and how it was doing, a review of that, and then we got into a discussion of Bryan Cranston. What was it? It was
learned is no Ian McKellen.
Yeah, because Beauty and the Beast has Ian McKellen in it, and then
if I can just say this, BK, verbally, Nathan did to Bryan Cranston what Albert Brooks did to Bryan Cranston in Drive. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's worth it.
Maybe one day we'll release the hidden.
There's no pain.
We won't play it. We won't play it right now, and we won't spoil it for him. We need to build interest for it. But there's a hidden episode out there that. It's so funny that's the reason why we're laughing. But anyway, one of you guys had a point in all of this.
But back to what we were saying. You're right. It was a simpler time. Things were good. It's nice to know that there's places out there still do that, especially when we can get literally everything delivered to our front door.
Yeah,
everything.
And I think that's the reason. And I think that's the reason why podcasting has become so popular. Because it allows you, because human beings, we're social interactive devices. Like we ourselves need this ability to connect with other people, no matter how emo you perpetuate yourself to be. You still have a Facebook.
My life is a spiraling abyss.
Exactly. You still have a need to hang out with other people that think like you and talk about the things you like to talk about. So, I mean, podcasting is a great way to kind of get some of that social interaction that you would normally get in the video store, either from the person who checked you out at the end of the night or gave you recommendations. So, that's definitely something to think about and thinking about how things are progressing in terms of things upcoming via the technology that we use every day. Speaking of which, by the way, okay, we've been talking about all these awesome things that have been going on. Nate, you said you didn't really have much going on this week, but dude, I know there's something that came out and that we touched on it last week, but we didn't really talk about it much. It's about something upcoming on Netflix.
26,
2 weeks ago, what was it? 2.5 weeks ago, they released the first trailer of The Defenders.
Yeah,
which was a good trailer. And I remember when I texted to you, my one little comment to it was, I'm happy about Luke Cage's reaction to Iron Fist because I believe it.
Who?
He says what we're all thinking.
Yeah, exactly. He thought what the rest of the world was thinking when he goes, I'm the immortal Iron Fist. You what? You know?
Who?
It's almost like they embraced the hate a little bit and said, "Let's use this," you know.
So
I will say that's one thing, BK, you pointed out. Marvel is really good at doing that. That is something that Marvel has always been good. Yes, they've always made fun of themselves. DC is much too serious on that part, but I will say Marvel is really good at making fun of those things.
They're good at pulling the B Rabbit versus Papa Doc finale.
Yes, that's right. I do got a dumb friend named Cheddar Bob.
And on a positive is the showrunners for the Defenders were the showrunners for
the 18th of August. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, it's not the showrunners are the guys that did the second season of Daredevil, so we don't have to worry about the showrunner that ruined Iron Fist. He's also the guy that ruined Dexter.
Speaking of, oh man, let's not go.
Moment of silence for Dexter.
Moment of silence for Dexter.
Moment of silence for seriously, we could have ended it without the last episode and been fine with our lives, right?
Well, no, now if you want to talk about Dexter, and we'll come back to Defenders in a second. If you want to talk about Dexter, the problem with Dexter is that it should have ended at the season finale. The season finale where it was the Trinity Killer got his comeuppance on Dexter. 4. That should have been the last episode. Him holding his wife in the bathtub dead, and then her funeral, and then he resolving himself from killing people. That should have been like the end of the series right there.
Yep.
Because then seasons 5 and 6 were identical to each other, literally with the same season ending. Finale on both of them.
Season 5 was with Little Hanks and Stand and Deliver, right?
Yes.
I think so.
Edward James almost. That's
oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Dude, it was so terrible. I forgot that he was even on that show.
Escalante.
Now, you know what I was thinking? What I was thinking is there's this. Have y'all not thought about the fact that there's this anomaly that happens, this phenomena that happens on television, that when a show starts to kind of die, they bring in one actor, and it happens in movies because they did it in Star Wars. They did it on Sons of Anarchy, and they also did it on Dexter. Jimmy Smits. Have y'all not noticed that? Like when the show starts to kind of die.
Jimmy Smits is the shot that every series needs always. I'm so surprised that he didn't get added to Iron Fist. I really expected him to jump into Iron Fist and be like, "All right, guys, you do what you can, but I'm going to help you be better." That's what Jimmy Smits for right now. Just so y'all know.
Season 2 starring Jimmy Smits.
Season 2, Iron Fist punching Jimmy Smits for no reason. And Jimmy Smits not budging.
That is always the thing. That is always the thing that they bring Jimmy Smits in to, like, it's the shot in the arm, for sure.
Dude, you're right. You're right. Like, he is like as funny as you're making it. It's true because I remember I'm always like every time I see him, I have the exact same. I'm like, oh, I didn't know he still acted. Nothing against him personally. I just always like, oh yeah, he is an actor. Kind of like Lou Diamond Phillips or something. When I see some terrible C movie he's in, I'm like, oh yeah, he is an actor. But yep. Dexter, Sons of Anarchy,
Star Wars, and Star Wars.
No. Jimmy Smits.
Star Wars, yep.
Jimmy Smits was season 3 of Dexter, I believe.
No, he was the season after the Trinity Killer.
Because
I'd have to know because the season after was Little Hanks and Jaime Escalante.
Hold on for a second. Let me look it up. Am I wrong?
I'm pretty sure season 3 was Jimmy Smits because he was working with Dexter, and Dexter was like, "Oh, I got a friend," and then Jimmy Smits started to get into the killing.
You're right. It was season 3. Wow.
Don't fuck with me on Dexter, man.
You're right about that.
I thought Trinity Killer was Trinity season 4. I thought Trinity was season 4.
He is.
Okay, I would have almost thought that Jimmy Smits was season 5. So yeah, okay.
So that
season 5, I keep telling you guys, was Little Hanks and Jaime Escalante.
Well, then that even more so even goes to what I was saying.
Is Jaime Escalante paying you or something? Because you said his name 19 times now. Okay,
well,
are you getting paid every time you say Jaime Escalante?
His name is Edward James almost, but I always remember him in Stand and Deliver as Jaime Escalante.
That goes more to say that maybe that show was dying a little bit, and that's why they brought him on. Because then that goes more so to that they should have ended it at season 4 then. because
it should have, absolutely. Yeah,
man.
That was the best.
All right, Edward James Almost was season 6. In front of my face on season 6.
Who was season 5?
Season 5, for the people in back, was, and that was when we. Oh, that was with Julia Stiles. She was in that season with Jordan Chase, like the preacher, the televangelist, maybe. Man. Don't quote me. I feel like he had something to do religious. Yeah.
And the Women in Barrels or something like that.
Yeah, how forgettable was that season? How forgettable was that?
This forgettable because you forgot about it until right now. You forgot about it until right now,
dude. When you
pretty much what.
Dude, the self-help dude. Yeah. He was like a self-help guy.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Dude, that show really went downhill after season 4, man. Season 4 was fucking cinematic masterpiece. What's his name? John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Menacing.
It's already over. Dude. It's already over.
God. Man. Yes. So pretty much, we're all excited about the Defenders.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I promise, don't let our talk about Dexter take away from the fact that we are really all excited about the Defenders. This is just how natural conversations go, and you're just privy to it. That's all this is. So enjoy it. Be along for the ride, the player way, if I may say that.
Absolutely.
Hard Knocks and Cheap Pots, right here in Dallas, Texas.
Shout out to Mick Foley. Man,
Cactus Jack, dude, love.
So I mean, is there anything coming up that you guys want people to watch out for?
I have something pretty exciting that I'm excited for next weekend. Is Alien Covenant comes out.
Yes.
Me personally, I've always been a fan of the Alien series, minus Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. I actually rewatched Prometheus. I personally liked it. You know?
Whoa, like you put yourself through that movie again?
I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought,
like mostly everybody.
Good.
Even Scott Ridley himself.
Ridley Scott loved it. Like he was actually kind of upset. There's actually like a more recent vignette that featurette where they talk about the upcoming film and talking about like how people nitpicked Prometheus to death. And so he basically was like, well, we're going to give you this, who cares about an origin story? Who cares of where the aliens came from? All you're going to know is that you're going to want to run from these things. We're going to ram them down your throat. Like, it's like, he's like, he feels a certain way about it. And I mean, I don't feel
Prometheus, I will say Prometheus probably shouldn't have been marketed as a prequel to Aliens.
Okay. I knew that's what you were going to say. And that's why I wanted Nate to say it first, because I disagree. I think the movie was marketed the way it was supposed to be marketed. Here's the problem. You cannot just do stuff and not tell us what it means. Okay, so apparently the scene at the very beginning of the film where the guy drinks the black stuff and then he disintegrates into the water, supposedly he's on Earth when that happens, and he's the little mitochondrial sickle cell type of organisms that we all... The primordial ooze, if you will. That's what that was. Yes. He becomes the primordial ooze that we all crawled out from. Like, but there's nothing anywhere that says that. It's all up to interpretation. And that's the problem. Is there's blockbuster film and then there's art. And the problem with art is up to scrutiny. So like whether or not, the Mona Lisa is the best painting of all time, that's up to scrutiny. There are whole courses taught on that subject. We don't want that when we go to a popcorn film. We just want a film that makes sense, that helps us understand what's going along so that we can be invested. So, the problem with Prometheus is that you have to go on a trek through YouTube, through all of these different fanboys that have some good theories and some bad theories. You got to watch 15 YouTube videos just to understand what happened in the movie, and then you go back and watch it again and go, oh, I get it.
And I want to at least say Ridley Scott, he defends Prometheus, which as you should, it's his work. Yeah. But he also said that he was disappointed in it as well. The real reason I point this out is because shortly after I saw it, I had certain feelings about it as well, so I did a lot of reading and actually just due to Covenant coming out, like I haven't seen anything on Covenant, as you guys know how I am about trailers, but because I want to just step into it with what I know and go from there. But the fact that he allowed a lot of the information and the influence of Prometheus to have to go into Covenant, he's at least making the effort and the nod of, all right, my bad, y'all. Because you're right. You and I, BK, and Nathan, like when I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel like this is probably where he's going, but I have nothing else in this entire movie to even base my theory on, so I don't even know if I'm right. I can't send Ridley him a text to be like, hey, what was this what I was supposed to get? And you're right, the fact that you have to go watch all these other videos just to wrap your mind around it, it shouldn't be that way. Now, I don't always want them just to lay out everything. Here's A to B, B to C, C to D, so on and so forth, but there are better ways to structure it, especially with this type of franchise. You have so much material already out there. You don't have to leave so much open for interpretation. With the fact that he had to reintroduce like the star of it was just because of the reaction to Prometheus. You know what I mean? So that at least lets me know that he knows what he did. You know what I'm saying?
And Nate, don't get me wrong. And don't get me wrong. Like, remember, it's not that I hate Prometheus, because I don't. I actually do like Prometheus. I just don't like it for what it was marketed to be. But I do like what it was marketed as, and I have more appreciation for it because it's more like, if you want to think about other films that came before it that remind you of it, I think of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where you're like half the film, you're like, what the hell is going on? I don't understand what is happening right now. I think we'll more so appreciate Prometheus now that Covenant is out, and I definitely think with the dialogue the way it's going now, because we're getting close to our time, I think we should devote most of the discussion next episode to Alien Covenant. What do you guys think about that?
Next week?
Well, if you guys plan on watching it.
I'm watching it, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll make some time. We'll go watch it. That'll definitely be into it.
Absolutely.
Oh, and real quick, as long as I like that we do these moment of silences, but moment of silence for Charlie Hunnam, because fucking King Arthur opened at $14.7 million. This movie cost $175 million. I think it's safe to say, not a hit. And
like,
there probably goes his career as a leading
last week, BK, you called this. You said moment of silence because we talked about how fate was beating it, probably still. So
and as you know, if you're listening to this podcast, you know the stuff that we talk about. We're helping you curate your content and do media the player way. So the fact that we didn't even talk about Charlie Hunnam other than to say that his movie was a popcorn fart in the wind, then that should tell you all. So don't spend the money on it. Don't even do it. We'll have an episode maybe over the summer where we talk about rainy day Netflix gems. Maybe he might make it into that. But
no. I'm not even gonna promise Charlie Hunnam a rainy day Netflix gem. He will get. Hey, what are some terrible movies that if you want to watch and talk through the entire movie, because it doesn't matter at what point you look at the film, that you'll be still okay with it? Like that's maybe the category, because I don't want to put him in categories of other like gems we might find. I guess he could be a gem like granite. You know, maybe some rocks, chalk rock.
It's safe to say that 20 years from now, it's probably going to be the #1 most rented movie in Alaska at Blockbuster.
Yes, bring it back. Bring it full circle.
Beautiful.
So, Derek, what are you going to be up this? What are you going to be up this week, man?
I actually have a couple of retro things. I was reading some gaming articles this week, and it was talking about. Actually, there's an article on the top 100 RPGs, okay? And I've never been really big in RPGs. I played enough of them. But it reminded me of another game that I played in my youth, and you and I talked about this
Are you talking
earlier,
about Metal
but you still
Gear?
have yet to know I am talking about Metal Gear.
You mean Metal Gear.
Voice, so.
You mean Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear?
Yes.
You mean Metal Gear?
Yes, so I
Cut to
would
cut
like
scene of Metal Gear Rex.
Yes. I would love to. I would like if on our next show, let's take a few minutes to discuss the awesomeness of what that was to our childhood and what it was to gaming, the gaming industry at that time for PS1. So that's what I'm going to actually get some research done on that.
Cool. And while we're mentioning the top games of all time, I would be remiss if I did not mention one of our sister podcasts, even though it's kind of unofficial that we're a sister podcast. One of the biggest influences.
It sounds pretty official now.
Yeah, one of the biggest influences on us doing this podcast was I was brought on for several episodes.
Made together.
I was brought on to do several episodes as a guest reviewer on Weekly Games Chat. That's the name of the podcast, Weekly Games Chat. It's a part of the Geek Versus family of media. Shout out to Chris, Sean, and John, the hosts of that. So if you are into wanting to know what the best games of all time, episode 100 of that came out about a month ago. You can find it on the same networks, just like iTunes, like you can find us on. They mainly do iTunes, though, so go there, give them a like. They have their episode 100 is the top 5 games of all time. So, guys, I encourage you to listen to that, too, because each guy gives their top 5, and they actually allow their fans, the people who listen to the show, to write in. So it's an amazing episode. Shout out to Chris, Sean, and John, and that's doing podcast The Player Way for this week. Guys, thank you guys for coming back another week. My co-captain's Derreck.
That's right, man. I'm gonna keep it live out here in Dallas. I'm still corrupting the system since it's TX.
And Nate.
Yep, that's me. And watch out for rickets, guys, because I'm back.
Rickets and scurvy.
Absolutely.
And scurvy.
If you like the stuff that we're talking about and you want to know more about that and have continued discussion and see our development on any of the stories that you heard in this episode, visit PlayLifeYourWay.com, the home of the Player Way podcast and the Play Your Way network. See you next week. Thanks for listening to the Player Way podcast. Recorded in a single take from Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, by Nathan Peterson, Derek Lewis, and BK Jackson. Our opening theme is titled Bound by Ricky Remedy, courtesy of Elysian Records. And our closing theme is titled Coconut King Diaries by Xander, spelled Zahnder. You can find this music by both Ricky Remedy and Xander, and many more tracks on SoundCloud. And remember, no matter what choices you make or paths you follow, just make sure you do it the player way. See you next week.